Alright, so this video is going to be the strap upgrade kit for the HalloweenCostumes.com Back to the Future 2 mags. So it's basically getting this strap to look like this with the help of the EL kit from Mark Poon. So first off, you want to mark your area to cut off of the straps. So you might not be able to see from this video, but I'll have pictures later. But I already marked off a little square here, which is pretty much the center of the strap. So when I put it on the shoe, the Nike logo will go right here. So what I did, and this might not be the best way, but the way I did it was cutting the bottom. So there are stitches here. So what you want to do is split this off and just cut the stitching, and just for this one small part. Later, if you're handy with like needle and thread, you could re-sew this, but what I did was I actually just glued it because I'm not that great with sewing. But once you have the thread cut off, you can get into the inside there. And what I do is I get a little piece of cardboard, and a very thin piece of cardboard, and I stick it in there before I cut, just so I don't cut through to the other side, because this is the back layer. I don't want to cut a hole through both sides. So with your cardboard in place and with your markings there, you want to start cutting with an X-Acto knife. Be really careful, and you want to get really clean cuts. So you want to make sure you have a new blade. And there, and it's not super clean, but I can clean that up later, but you kind of get the idea. So once you have your little rectangle cut out, you can grab your Nike logo and do a quick test fit by slipping it through right in there. And as you can see, it looks okay. It's up to you on how you want to position it. This is more just a test fit right now. Later, what I can do is I can cut the threads and give myself a little bit more wiggle room, and then glue it down once I have the final positioning. One thing that I want to mention is that since you have your connectors on this side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wire it behind the strap. So on the back, right over here, I cut a little slit right behind the logo. The logo is right here. On the back, the slit is right here. So this slit is so I can grab the wiring and feed it through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed the wiring through the strap before I solder it. Because if you solder this wire to the logo before feeding it through, then there's kind of no way to get that logo in there without cutting the whole strap apart. So before I start soldering, I'm just going to go over all the things that you're going to need. You're going to need your strap, you're going to need a soldering iron or a soldering gun, you're going to need some solder, and from the kit you're going to need your inverter, you're going to need your Nike logo, your battery holder, and your on and off switch. One thing that doesn't come with the kit that you're also going to need is just a spare piece of wire. I just had some wire lying around, so I just cut a little piece and stripped the ends, and I'll explain what we're going to be using with this a little bit later. We're about ready to start soldering everything together. First thing that I'm going to solder is the Nike logo to the two black wires. So there's no polarity on this, so you could just solder either wire to either connection. Over here, you can see that I fed the wire through the back of the strap. And this is an optional thing right here, but basically I have this heat shrink tubing you can get at any electronics store or Amazon. You want to put this on before you solder, so that way after, when these two are connected, you can actually cover it and use a heat gun, and it'll shrink it, and it'll tighten it and protect the connections. This is optional, you don't have to use it. You could use electronic tape, that black tape, but I like using it because it's nice and clean. So first, I'm just going to use this spare piece of wood so I don't burn through my plastic mat here. I have a clamp, and if you have those fancy soldering arms, you can use that, but I don't, so I'm just going to use a clamp to keep my wires in place. I'm going to grab my solder, or my soldering iron, and my solder. I'm going to tin the tip of the solder ring iron. I'm going to warm up the wire, and I'm also going to tin the wire. Alright, so now I have the tinned wire. And you only need it there for a couple of seconds. And you can see I have it nice and secure. And you don't want to solder it so it flows onto the other connection, so you want to be careful for that. And I already pre-tinned that wire, so that way you don't have to see me do it again. Let it cool down for a couple of seconds. And there you go. And I'll take a picture of this and post a picture also if you can't see that, but I have a pretty good connection right there. Enough room there. And that sound you hear is my heat gun just warming up. And all I'm doing is just going over it with the heat gun. You don't want to do it too fast or too slow, just so you don't damage the logo, but you can see that it's shrinking right there. And now you can see there's a good protected connection. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to solder this red wire to the battery holder. So the battery holder actually has two sides. We have the positive side and the negative side. The negative side has one prong, and the positive side has two prongs. You can choose either one. I chose the left one, and I actually already tinned this side with some solder, and I also tinned the red wire with some solder as well. There you go. So now, see, we have a good connection, and now I can go in and protect that connection with my heat gun, which I have right here. And now you can see we have a nice solid protected connection. Alright, so next up we're going to take that new piece of wire, the one that's not included in the kit, and you're going to solder it to the negative side of the battery holder. So I'm going to take my clamp here so I can get a good connection. Take my solder. Heat it up. Let it cool down. And there you go. That's a pretty solid connection right there. Alright, so now we have the red wire from the inverter connected to the positive terminal of the battery holder, and the extra wire connected to the negative battery terminal. Now I have the black wire and the on-off switch to solder. So the on-off switch, you're gonna solder the black wire to the middle pin right over there, and I bent it out a little just so it's a little bit easier for me to reach with my soldering iron. So I'm putting it in my clamp right there, and just hit it with my solder for maybe a second, and there you go. You have another good solid connection there. Slip up the little shrink tubing, hit it with the heat gun, and that's one more thing that's nice and secure. So last thing that we're gonna have to do is solder the extra wire over to one of the side terminals on the on-off switch. So I'm gonna go ahead and clamp this up. And there you go. Alright, so quick recap. We have the two black wires coming from the inverter soldered to the Nike logo, and the red-black wire coming from the inverter with the red wire going to the positive terminal of the battery holder, and the black wire soldered to the middle terminal of the on-off switch. And we have the extra wire right over here that has one side soldered to the side terminal of the on-off switch and to the negative terminal of the battery holder. So next, I'm just gonna pop in the battery right here. Here's the Nike logo switched off right now, and I'm gonna switch it on, and there you go. What you want to do now is pull it through the strap and position it how you want, and then, like I said earlier, it's up to you if you want to glue it in there or if you want to sew it in there. It kind of depends on what look you're going for. So enjoy.